Okay.
Google search చేశాను. మళ్ళీ నార్మల్ గా చేసినా కూడా
Yeah, fine friends. So let's continue. So in the session today, we want the session let's find how to create database as a container, get into the database, connect to the database container, create some tables, and get back. And as developers, we don't need to create any database, nothing as such. But just let's say if you are willing to get started off with some database technology, how easy it is to get started with what's say MySQL as a container. Right. So without any further delay, let's continue. Docker is already installed on my Windows machine. So on my Windows machine, I'll go create a database as a container. After I'll show you MySQL database, but you got to work later on the PostgreSQL. You got task. Okay? You create MySQL as a container, access the database. But later, what should you do? I'll show you MySQL, but you got to do PostgreSQL. Okay, you go through some references over the web, and just site hub.docker.com. Visit cheste you'll get to know how to create some PostgreSQL as a container. Postgres search cheyandi, ikkada oka image untundi. Ee image tho etla containers create cheyalanedi meeku కొన్ని instructions ఉంటాయి. You got to follow them and then create a Postgres instance and then create a table inside Postgres database. But for today, I'll go create a database as a container. And as we discussed earlier, every database as a container has operating system. Prati container ki database or application as a container and just get this picture in mind. There is some Linux operating system on top of which the application is configured. Okay, and what happens is when you start application as a container, a container యొక్క primary process కానీ container యొక్క primary approach కానీ ఏంటంటే get that application up and running. Priority is not given to the data to the underlying operating system. Priority is given to the application. You find your application getting up and running. A container create చేయగానే you don't need to dive into the underlying operating system unless you require. And ఇప్పుడు ఏదైనా web server as a container create చేసి a website మార్చాలంటే then we got to dive to the operating system, and then we are making changes to the application configuration. Till then, you don't need to get to an underlying operating system at all. Okay, so now in our case, what we do is we're going to create a database as a container. So database as a container at last, the command docker run --name. Your name but yeah, we got to give a name. Let's say name, let's say mydb. Next minus d. What is minus d? Detached mode, where we push all the logs to the backend. Backend will put the logs and next. Wow. So where did you give the detached mode? Yeah. Okay. Did everything there. Okay.
So in that, detached mode is not taken.
Not taken. So if you are giving detached mode towards the end of the command,
Okay.
minus d and the last teacher, meaning after image name, it won't work.
No.
Prior here, right? Likewise, when we give minus p తర్వాత port mapping ఇస్తాము. Again, within port mapping ఇట్లా ఇచ్చినా కూడా error వస్తుంది. No, before port mapping. We'll see. I'll check. Docker run --name mydb minus b for detached mode. ఇక్కడ minus p కాదండి. For databases, what is given? Let's say if I install database on this Windows machine, if I were to connect to the database, database ko a separate application ఉంటుంది, not a web interface, but some separate application. But for this database containers here, the application is nothing but what say your terminal only. I think databases ఏవైనా కూడా when we try to connect to a database, there are some login credentials given. Let's say if I install MySQL database on this Windows machine, ఇప్పుడు MySQL install చేశాను అనుకోండి, just a second. MySQL database download. So over here we go MySQL downloads and say community edition GPL downloads. Now MySQL Windows ఉంది కదండి, let's say MySQL installer Windows, let's go with 32-bit. Okay, no thanks, just start my download. So an application was downloaded, right? Now if I install it, ఎప్పుడైనా database install చేసినప్పుడు మీకు ఏమవుతుందంటే you find what's a bunch of activities, like you are asked to create a root account and a password. A root account, sorry, already is created, a root is created, but you got to assign a password to that root account. Only with that root credentials you got to log in and create your databases and so on. So installation process we choose, you find the same. I think MySQL is already installed on this machine. Already, I think we added this, already installed in the system. So just giving you an overview, when I install MySQL database as an application on Windows, what happens is Jenkins install చేసినప్పుడు ఏమవుతుందండి, we are provided with a root user account and we are unlocking it with a password. Then we are creating our account. And our root account ఏంటంటే no one is supposed to access your root account unless you. Likewise, when you create database as a container, you are asked to create there's already a root user, we got to create a password for that root user. అందుకని ఇక్కడ మనకి ఒక environment variable ఉంది. What is that? MySQL underscore root underscore password అనే ఒక variable ఉంది, environment variable. With this environment variable, you got to assign a password to your root user. Already in this MySQL container, there's a root user and you're assigning a password to that user. Let's say 1234, or maybe MySQL root password is equal to root. And finally, your image named MySQL. Yep, let's hit enter. And now what happens? The image is downloaded first. Next, a container gets created. So first an image anedi downloaded. Let's wait for a minute. An image gets downloaded and followed by that, a container gets created. Still happening, right? Yeah. So now a container is created. If we try to understand Docker ps -a, we should find a container available. So do we have a container? MyDB container undi already. Now, all I want to do is gain access to this application. And this application has no UI, no face. If you were to write some commands or create some database and so on, what should you do? First things first, a Linux operating system to learn. What is the command to jump to this operating system of the container? Docker exec -it /bin bash, your container name here, mydb /bin /bash. A command asks them on what's happening. We are jumping to this container. Let's give a try over here. Docker exec -it mydb /bin /bash. Enter. We are inside now the container. Yeah, bash 4.4 and it's nothing but you're inside that container. Now from this container you have to connect to the database. ikkada marla oka command rayali meeru database connect avadam. What is that command? Means the command goes this way: mysql -u root -p. mysql -u space root, mysql space -u root minus p అంటే minus u అంటే user. Connect to MySQL as user root and minus p అంటే password. And once you hit enter, you're asked to enter the password. What is the password we give? ROOT. Right? ఇక్కడ ఒక run command దగ్గర మనం ఇచ్చిన password. What was the password we assigned? MySQL root password is equal to root. So that environment variable, you got to enter it as a password here. Let's hit enter. Are we connected, friends?
Yes.
So we are now connected to the database. Now we are at this database application level. And for applications which do not have a face, you got to go with this approach. If an application got a face, what you do, you go with a port mapping, and on the exposure port on your host, you reach to the container. But here, this is the approach. Once we reach to MySQL, now we are good to write your SQL queries. Tenth question SQL, MySQL database, creating databases, writing queries. Gotcha? Yeah. So the command to look for databases. So databases, first we got to list databases. Show databases and databases and every SQL statement should end with a semicolon. Like put the punch. So already 4 predefined databases are like. Okay, these are some predefined databases, meaning the application defined or so whatever. Now we got to dive into or use one of the databases. So let's say use MySQL number. Semicolon enter. Now what happened? For some of the queries, I guess it's not accepted. So put use MySQL. The MySQL database is an outline in which contains tables. So in this MySQL, what are the tables present? How to get tables? Show tables on them. Let's hit enter. So children, semicolon important. And next line, any lines put now, it asks you to terminate that statement with a semicolon. So now what happened? There are a lot of tables present in this MySQL database. ఇలా చాలా tables ఉన్నాయండి, like columns, private, ఇవన్నీ కూడా some system generated tables. Now I want to find what is present in this func table, function table. ఇప్పుడు ఎట్లా రాయాలి మనం command? What's the command now to list all the data in func table, function table? Select
star from func.
Semicolon. What is it saying? Empty set. Okay. Select star from. Let's go with the user table. Okay, let's go with user. Star from user, semicolon. You see, friends, everything cluttered, right? But no worries. Let's zoom out and try to run the same command again. Still hitting the data cluttered, and then my screen is not fitting, or the table is very huge, right? So select show tables again. Let's go select tables, and yeah, select star from servers. Servers and semicolon, nothing, empty set again. Select star from time underscore zone. This is some table, a time zone table we are able to fetch. Right? This is a time zone table. We're getting a lot of values. Time zone ID, use leap seconds, some table, predefined tables. Now my requirement is I want to create a new table here. First, I want to create a database, jump to that database and create a table and write some queries on that table which I create. So etla chedam. So meer SQL start cheyali nerchukovali anukunte a quick approach is just jump to the site. What's the site? The site named w3schools.com. w3schools.com కి వెళ్ళి ఇక్కడ మీకు ట్యుటోరియల్స్ database ఉందండి, MySQL, ఇక్కడ server side, learn MySQL. So ఇక్కడ మీకు lot of commands and lot of information about MySQL databases. So to create a table, what is the command to create a database. So MySQL create DB header. Create database, some database name. This is the command to create a database. So I'm jumping back to my command prompt here and say create database. Let's say MyDB semicolon. Now what happened? A database got created. Show databases. Surely, MyDB is a new database which I created. Now let's go with the use MyDB. So from now on, if I create any table that gets added into MyDB, right? MyDB is the database which is selected now. And now, if I want to create a table, what's the command again? Just go back here. MySQL create table children. Syntax only. How to create a table, an outline, a schema, how to create a table schema. You are given with some code. Change them, copy paste. Yeah, let's copy and paste that over here. Paste anyway. See the query, and once we run this query, what happens? A table persons. Table name is persons. A table name persons gets added. In that persons table, we are adding person ID, last name, first name, address, and city. Okay. So yeah. Now if we go with the select, show tables to the so table create and the a table got created. Now if I say select a star from persons, what happens? We get an not error though, but nothing, no data, empty section. Because we just created an outline of a table, but we haven't yet added any records. So how to add records to a table? Yeah, online can you
insert.
Sorry, what was the command?
Insert. By using insert. Hello.
So insert into. The command we got is insert into. So children, if you just go here, you find insert into undandi. Yeah, MySQL insert into. So if we go here, if we run select this one, headler ILE command, but you are given some information. Insert into table name, and then your column names, and then values. So it goes this way then. Insert into persons. Okay, and then we got to give table name. What is it? Column names like person ID. Then last name. Values, and then add the values. Like let's say person ID 1001, comma, last name, let's say Michael, first name Sam, next address HYD, and city HYD, and close the end it with a semicolon. Enter. What's happening? It's understood that we have to enclose our string values. Very okay. Yeah, well, friends. So let's run a command. Select star from persons. Now, do we get any data? Yes, there is one record. Sam Michael, 1001. His city is Hyderabad, and his address Hyderabad. So this is how we create tables. If you are interested to go with what's the databases, just give a try. Okay. Likewise, SQL is an interesting, interesting database language, structured query language. అట్లా మీరు ఎక్స్పెరిమెంట్ చేయాలి అంటే there is a site called just insomnia MySQL అంటే మీకు ఇక్కడ there are some queries already written and available. So this first block, friends, this entire stuff is create a table called employee. If a table employee exists, delete it and create a table employee with this query. That's what it means. So first, let's copy this entire stuff and go back to our command prompt and run it. Shift FN insert paste anyway. The command రాయగానే మీకు ఇప్పుడు ఏమవుతుంది, in my DB database table got created, employee table got created. Show tables. You find a table here, EMP. Now select star from EMP. What it says, my friend, it's empty, no data, nothing. Now if you were to add some data, ఇక్కడ కిందనే మనకి see insert into EMP values. Here there are a lot of records of data given. Just copy that entire step and insert it over here, paste anyway, enter. Now all these records of data got added into your into the table EMP. Now if you say select star from EMP, ఎప్పుడు మీ క్రియేటివిటీ తీసుకురండి బయటికి. This is the table. Now I want all the employees whose salary is greater than 2,500. What is the command or what is the query? How to structure our query? I joined the session. Yes, sir.
Yes, Prashant.
Yeah, okay, sir. Okay, you joined as Prasad.
Yes.
So friends, yeah, what is the command to get all the records of data here where salary is greater than 2,500? What should be the query?
Select star from employee table where
Star.
cell greater
Where
where cell
salary is
greater
2500. What's happening there? We're getting
we are
the
getting all the data.
only the salary of employees whose salary is greater than, sorry, only the employees whose salary is greater than 2,500. Select e-name. Oh, of course, we're getting deviated from Docker to MySQL. I'll close it and we get back here. Select e-name from EMP where job is equal to manager. What result do we get?
Only
We
we
get
get manager.
మేనేజర్ జాబ్ వాళ్ళందరూ డిస్ప్లే అవుతారు.
only the name, not everything, just the name part of managers. Jones, Blake, and Clark. They three are managers. Rest of all of them are not managers because I said here select e-name. I specified only one column. If I say star here, all the columns I get as a result. So you can experiment on this database thing. I'm exiting. So once I hit exit, what happened? I came back to my Windows machine. Exit and type చేయగానే ఈ application నుండి మనం we came back to the underlying operating system of the container. See, I'm at the underlying operating system of the container. Now, if I type exit, then what's happening? I'm getting back from the container back to my host, Docker host. Okay. So this is how we got to write database as a container. Of course, this much discussion is not required though, but just giving you an overview. And like going forward, we got a concept called multi-container architecture. మీరు ఒక కంటైనర్ క్రియేట్ చేశారనుకోండి, let's say WordPress. WordPress is a container, an application that allows you to create dynamic web pages. And dynamic websites create చేయడానికి మనకి WordPress అవసరం. When we create WordPress as a container, what happens is it's unable to withstand on its own. That single container is not capable of handling or that single container is not capable of doing anything. It requires a database. Our scenario, we have to link our WordPress container with the database container. So how to do that? How to enable linking between your WordPress container and MySQL database? At that time, we might have we may have to know some sort of SQL knowledge. So if a separate database WordPress tables create చేస్తుంది ఆ tables అన్ని స్టోర్ అవడానికి ఒక separate database create చేయాల్సి వస్తే how to create a container, MySQL container, jump into it, and how to create a database. Should have some very good understanding. At that time, this knowledge helps you. Okay. Yeah. So now, friends, will the big task to you is you got to go with a Postgres. The Postgres database image on the at hub.docker.com level. మీరు గూగుల్ వాడతారో లేదా యూట్యూబ్ వాడతారో తెలియదు, but go ahead, do the same, meaning create some tables with Postgres database. Okay, give a try with Postgres image, creating some tables, create a container, and in that container you got to create some tables. Yeah, I'm not going to monitor you, but మీకే తెలుస్తుంది మీరు చేస్తారో లేదో. You question yourselves whether you are doing the tasks or not, right? So now friends, let's talk about a quick concept, which is volumes, Docker volumes concept. Docker volumes concept. What is a Docker volume? Before we dive in, I'll add a statement here. Containers are ephemeral. What does this mean? Ephemeral ante ardham entandi? Containers are ephemeral. Okay. So let me just give a quick overview. Ikkada chudam. Docker run -- name and let's say m1 minus it alpine. A quick command to create m1 as a container. Let's hit enter. Now m1 container gets created. Let's find out. M1 container gets created. Yeah, a container got created. ls command. This is the file system of the container. cd into temp directory. Here, let's say touch command, file 1, file 2, file 3, file 4, file 5. mkdir directory 1, directory 2, directory 3, directory 4, directory 5. So in a temp directory, I created a couple of files and directories. Now I'll exit out of this container. Now you tell me the data which I created in my container is available or not. It's available.
Yes.
So Docker ps minus a, but the container is exited, right? And how come the data in m1 container is available? Do you think the data in the container is available if it's exited?
Yes, because that is
Yes, it's available. In confusion, the data is pretty much available, right? So the data within a container is available until the point the container has its existence on the Docker host. If at all a container is deleted, అంతేనండి ఇప్పుడు ఏమవుతుంది ఈ ఫైల్స్ అన్ని కూడా we lose them because we are deleting a container, meaning we are deleting the container as well as the data which we contributed within, everything getting compromised. Docker rm m1, and now you're not only deleting the container but also it's the data within the container, everything getting compromised. Now friends, see Docker ps minus a, there is no m1 container, there is no data related to that m1 container anymore. Containers are ephemeral, meaning the data within a container is available until the point the container is alive or the container is stopped. A container అనేది ఉండాలి, that's it. If it's not available or if it's deleted, it means all the data within the container are also getting compromised. Now, again, one more command I'd like to run here. You just take a guess here, friends. Docker run -- name, let's say my container minus it -- rm, and I say busybox. So what do you think? What happens now? what happened? Container got created. That is what. Take a guess. Yeah, take a guess. What happens? Perfect. True. We'll guess just but it's true. Once you hit exit, what happens? The container is no longer existing. The time when the container is exited, the container gets removed. So let's find out. Even here, let's say I create mkdir directory 1, directory 2, directory 3, and touch command file 1, file 2, file, some random files I'm creating. And there are some files and directories present. But once you hit exit, what happened? You don't find a trace of that container. Docker ps -8. Docker ps -8. See, you don't find a trace of that container at all. And then --r and until the point the container is running, you find that container available. Once you exit, the container is removed. Okay. Now, friends, my requirement is something different. Like I create a container on my Docker host, and I got a lot of data here, lots and lots of data in my container. But when we are deleting the container, what's happening? Everything getting lost, right? But my requirement is, even though I delete my container, the data which I created should be available on my Docker host. The data should not get compromised. I should have or find the data on my local machine. So how do we ensure to do that? How do we add such, let's say, functionality to Docker? It's we create something called a Docker volume. We create something called a Docker volume. And what does a Docker volume do? A Docker volume, by the time when you create a container, what you do, you attach something called a volume. Kind of think of it as a USB drive. Now, what you do, all your important data in your container, you have to move it to that volume. మీరు a container create చేసి volume attach చేసిన తర్వాత, what should you do? You have to move all your important data into that volume. అది important అండి. అక్కడ మీరు ఆ move అనేది చేయకపోతే again it's good for nothing. And once you move all your data to this volume, now if you delete your container, not a problem. You still have that data on your local machine, on your Docker host. Only the container is removed, but the data is still pretty much available on your Docker host. So let's find out how to create a container with some volume. Okay. So over here, let me do one thing, friends. The example make better to show on a, let's say, cloud shell or yeah, on a Linux server. So we haven't yet started Ansible, right? Docker అయిపోయినాక మనకి get started off with Terraform and Ansible. So friends, ఇప్పటివరకు నేర్చుకున్న కాన్సెప్ట్స్ లో మీరు do you feel confident enough doing things? Online candidates? మీరు ఏం చెప్తున్నారో మాకు అర్థం కావట్లేదు. మాత్రం నేను చేయలేనండి. Because we already completed more than a month, right? And we're getting ample amount of breaks too. Yeah. So make sure you're learning the concepts. Just in case, Miguel, if you want to retouch on any of the concepts, do let me know. Okay, so that I'll check with the management. They're planning a new batch. Is it Git? Okay. Yeah. So what we do, the concepts that you are unable to understand, and మీరు recordings చూసినా కూడా మీకు తెలియట్లేదు. What you do, just take a note of them. If we are a group of audience who are not understanding those concepts, then what we do, we plan some sessions again, and I'll try to bring a justification that you understand those concepts. Okay. We got an overall result ఏంటంటే we should get the concept clear. అన్ని మనం whatever we spending time here, what purpose are we spending time here, that should get fulfilled. So make sure, friends, you practice enough, and just in case కొన్నిసార్లు understanding everything is not possible to anyone, even me, right? So maybe I might not explain you things properly. Sometimes it happens, and out of hesitation you might have said, Prashant, we understood. So that is where such things, make sure, I'm openly saying, ఎంత say 10 years or 20 years of DevOps experts and when they try to teach, somewhere even trainers do struggle in some areas, because no one is an expert in all the areas, right? So if you give your feedback that I didn't understand some concept or so, that actually awakens me to make sure that for the next batches or so, I have to teach much more care, and have to bring some more good explanation on that concept, something like that. Okay. It's a learning process, and it's a continuous, and everyone is for everyone, it's a continuous process. Learning, and it's a never-ending process. Yeah. So now let's find here things. Docker run dash name. Let's just see one container minus IT alpine under. But in this C1 container, if I got some data that is important, even though a container is deleted about the data on my host, then what I do is I'll attach something called a volume, and it goes this way, -v, let's say / my data, / my data. So once we hit enter, what happens is a container gets created. A container file system లో మీకు my data అనే folder ఒకటి కనిపిస్తుంది. So you got to think of it as a USB drive you attach it to this container. So మీరు ఈ container లో wherever you create your data, if you want that data on your host, even a container is removed, you have to make sure that all the data is available in my data. And then if I have some data in temp directory, I got some data in etc directory, got some data in bin directory, but nothing in my data. And if you delete the container, what happens? Everything gets deleted. So make sure that whatever the drive you are attaching here, or volume you are attaching here, you have to push your data, your secure data, into that volume. So cd into my data, and I'll add some data here, like touch command file1, file2, file3. Right? mkdir directory 1, directory 2, directory 3. Let me go back from this my data and cd into temp directory. And in temp, what I do is touch command git maven ansible terraform aws mkdir, let's say new directory. I can cd into etc, and here touch command, let's go with the cb.txt, career.txt, and go back. Now see, friends, in this container, I created some files in etc, some files in temp, and some files in my data. My data. Now if I go back, let me exit out of this container, and what I do is accidentally I've written this command, docker rm -set dollar docker ps -aq. What is this command? Delete everything, all the containers running as well as stopped. So there's only one, and it got removed. A container got removed. Now the data which is that container is very important for me. But if at all you placed any data within my data of that container, that data is available on your Docker host. My data folder on the data I can secure, but not the other data. So where do you find that data then? In my data, Nidhi, on your Docker host, where do you find? Means we got to jump to this part, cd2 /var lib docker volumes. Okay, jump to this section. What's happening? Okay, let's say sudo su, yeah. cd into /var lib docker and volumes. And here, if you observe, let me just switch off dark field command. Here you find a directory. If I add the string in this is nothing but a directory. And you got to dive into that directory. cd into 3dc. Type only F6. What should we do now? Just hit tab. Directory name select, right? Now, in this directory, see there is a directory called underscore data. cd into underscore data. And if you issue ls command here, or in that container, whatever the files you create in my data, they are pretty much available over here on your Docker host. Yeah, this concept, we call it as a simple Docker container. So, simple Docker volume. Simple Docker volume. Right? So, remember the path, friends. The volumes are heavy. They are available in this path, var lib docker volumes. Okay, here you find it with a weird directory name of something with a huge volume ID. The directory gets created with a huge volume ID. In that volume ID, you find your data. Let's create one more container. Docker run -- name my, let's say, busy box -d minus minus d minus it minus v, let's say / let's say my volume, and then busy box. Enter. So from busy box image, volume. Yeah. No problem. It will work here. N should be your image name. And -v తర్వాత -it యాడ్ చేయండి. -v తర్వాత volume name ఇచ్చేసి తర్వాత -it. That way we got to make sure. Now here, if we go with ls command, in this file system, we got a directory name my volume. So this is the drive which secures your data. Now you tell me, if I want some data from my Docker host shared into this container, what should I do? Docker host only for the data. We got to jump to that path. Let's exit from this container. And now what I do is, if my volume ekkadiki mount avutundi on our Docker host, we have to identify the path. Right? So how to identify the path? We got a command docker inspect. Okay, docker inspect my busy box. The command it gives us information about our busy box container. Lot of information about your container. Some technical aspects and with which image the container is created. All that info here. We keep going up. See? Status exited. Running false. Paused false. This is your container ID. When it got created. What is the shell type assigned to the container when you connect to it? When it started, when it got stopped. Lot of information about your container. All the hardware aspects that the container is expecting from your host, everything you're able to find here. See, mount, platform, Linux, image, when you could have just send details. Of course, all this info is not required for us because we are not jumping into the two technical aspects of Docker. And if you keep going down, somewhere here you find a mount cell section of somewhere. Under this mount section, here you find something called a source. And here you find your path to the directory where my volume is mounted. So my volume is mounted on your Docker host to this path. /var lib docker volumes. Just identify 75E6BC. 75E6BC. Let's go and now cd2 /var lib docker volumes and okay, sudo su cd2 var lib docker volumes, and here ls command cd2 75e6 tab. Here you find underscore data cd into underscore data and ls command. Here we go. This is the volume. Now you want to share data of your host to your volume, to your container volume. Now what you do, just add all those files here. Let's go add some files like, let me just cd2 /home/nocturnal devops ls command. So there are a lot of files. I want to cp star.sh, all these script files. I want to copy to, let's say, /var/lib/docker/volumes/75, this one /_data/. What happened? Now all the script files are copied into that volume. Now if we go with docker ps-a, my busybox is exited. Let's see, let's connect to it. Docker start my busybox. Docker attach my busybox. Now if we cd into my volume, so from the host, you're able to get data to the container here. Likewise, from the container, you can share data to your host. A volume is acting vice versa. To share data from your local machine to the host, Docker host, likewise from Docker host, sorry, to the container. Not required. Within the same server, right? We have a volume. Not required. No, nothing as such. Yeah, friends. So this is a quick concept of Docker volumes. And now let's understand one more concept, which is a Docker volume container. What is a Docker volume container? In this C1 container undi. Likewise, I got one more container C2. Likewise, one more container C3. I want to share some things between these containers. I want to share some content between these three containers. Then what we do, we attach something called a volume, a shared volume. And now, if at all A1 container adds some data to this volume, A2 and A3 are able to find it. Likewise, if at all A2 adds some data, A1 and A3 are able to find. A3, A1 and A2 are able to find. It's a shared volume, like a Google Drive on the. Once recordings are added to the drive, all of you getting those recordings. No, nothing as such. Because they're all on the same host, there is no such restriction. Then we need to go with SSH permissions. Since all of them are on the same host, and Docker container is nothing but a process, a running process, so it doesn't require anything unless we specify. So now, friends, if I want to make sure that A1 container, A2, and A3, for these three containers, I want to share some data. Or the data created by A1 should be shared between A2 and A3. In this case, what we do, similar to our Docker host, Google Drive, how we have a shared drive. Likewise, we create a drive, a volume. This volume is called as a shared volume. And this concept, we call it as a Docker volume container. Simple Docker volume is the earlier one. Now the concept what we are learning is Docker volume container. Right, so let's now dive in and get this example done, friends. So Docker run -- name, let's say A1 -IT Alpine. But before I go and run this command, I would say -v shared underscore volume. ఇక్కడ మీరు నేమ్స్ ఏమైనా ఇచ్చుకోవచ్చండి. For our understanding, I'm giving the names this way. You can give any name of your choice. And once you hit enter, what happens? A container got created. Okay, and in this container, you find a volume name shared underscore volume. cd into shared underscore volume, add some data, let's say touch command file1.txt. And I'll exit out of the shared volume. And now what I do, again, I'll create one more container. Docker run -- name A2 -IT. And what should I do? A shared volume A1 దగ్గర మనం క్రియేట్ చేసిన షేర్ వాల్యూమ్ we got to give to A2 అంటే ఇక్కడ క్రియేట్ చేస్తే ఇది ఒక సెపరేట్ షేర్ వాల్యూమ్ అయిపోతుంది. సో ఐ వాంట్ టు ఎక్స్టెండ్ ద వాల్యూమ్ ఆఫ్ A1 to A2. అప్పుడు మనం ఏం చేస్తామంటే హియర్ వి సే డాష్ డాష్ వాల్యూమ్స్ హైఫన్ ఫ్రమ్ వేర్ A1. వెరీ గుడ్. A1 కంటైనర్ కి మీరు ఏ వాల్యూమ్ అయితే క్రియేట్ చేశారు that shared volume I want to extend it to A2. So that is where we are saying dash dash volumes from A1 alpine. So now once you hit enter, now A2 container is created. And if you go with ls command, likewise A1 container will apply to make shared volume. Even in A2 you're finding shared volume. Now if you cd into this shared volume, you already find a file named file1.txt which you created at shared which we created at A1 container level. Likewise, over here, let's say touch file2.txt, touch command file3.txt, touch command file4.txt. In a A2 container, I created some bunch of files. Now I'll exit out of here and let's say docker run dash dash name A3 minus IT dash dash volumes hyphen from A2 or A1. Anything is A1 or anything. And now you tell me, is it going to work?
No.
The image I'm showing, I'm going to create A3 with is Ubuntu.
Same run.
Host is the same host.
Then it will work.
Then it will work. Let's find out. So container created, but this container is created out of an image Ubuntu. Earlier containers were created out of Alpine, but nothing is going to change. Still find shared volume. cd into shared volume and this command, still having the same detail. Yeah.
Already చాలా కంటిన్యూస్ క్రియేట్ చేసి
Mm.
ఇప్పుడు మళ్ళీ మనకి షేర్ volume అంటే యాడ్ చేసాం ఆల్రెడీ క్రియేటెడ్ కంటెంట్.
Yeah, we can do that. We can add a volume, mount a volume. You mount a volume to the existing container. Once, yeah, let's say. Again, over here, let's go with the Docker. Just a second, please. Docker. Yes, somewhere here we got a command which is mount the volume to an existing container. Just a second. Attach, no, attach is for attaching. Connect. Create history load pause. Restart, save, start, wait. Update configuration of one or more containers. Just a second, please. Docker run dash dash name, let's say A1 minus IT Alpine. Oh, A1 is already present. Okay, let's go with A4 Alpine. So Docker ps minus a, sorry, ls command here. We got only these containers, right? Now we got to attach a volume to this container. Let me exit from here and Docker inspect A4. And what is the volume attached by default? Mount A under the we got to mount here. See, mounts, nothing is present. So we got a command, Docker mount command something. Mount is not a Docker command. Just a second. Docker help. Okay. Host list. Okay. Let's say grep minus I volume. volume, manage volumes. Okay, Docker volume dash dash. Create a volume, inspect, list volumes, remove all unused volumes, and remove one or more volumes. Create, we got, inspect, we got, ls list one. Docker inspect. What is the volume name we give? Shared volume, right? Shared underscore volume. No such object, shared volume. Okay. Docker volume ls. How many volumes we got? We got these volumes, right? And out of these volumes, which is the volume we got? This one, the last one, yeah. Docker volume attach D5 3B. That's fine. Do we have any command for volume attach? Create, inspect one, update. Volume update. D53 D530 to, let's say, A4, right? No, options volume, okay. Docker volume update options, let's say A4 onto D53B 530. No, cluster volumes only. So there is one such command, and just a second, somewhere in our documentation too, I added that. No, the documentation is not available. We can attach like the same thing, Docker volume update. Update the volume. Okay, let's do a quick search of Docker volume. Attach volume. Docker volume to. Container. Yeah, let's do a quick search first. Mounting a volume inside a Docker container. Yeah. I think these guys, they give the same examples what we did so far. Docker volume create and then Docker volume inspect. Next, what are the same? Sudo Docker run minus itv minus v gigs for gigs shared volume. Okay, there's nothing but mounting a volume as shared volume onto Docker host. But our requirement is Docker volume attach on a created container. We want to extend our right. This is the command to attach Docker volume during the runtime, meaning with the Docker run command. Once a container is already created, we want to connect with it. Yeah, add a volume to an existing Docker container. Okay, let's find this example. Docker container create. Okay. Container start. Create and start nothing but you running Docker run command. Okay, next sudo Docker volume create. Okay, next sudo Docker container export. Okay, let's start with the export. Docker container export. Check its content. No, this is again a Docker container create. Image import. No. Commit command is to create an image, customized image, not this one. Container create, container start. No. Adding a volume by modifying the config.v2.json file. No, friends, this approach is pretty hectic. We got a very simple approach. Sudo Docker, what's say Docker volume mount. There is some command volume mount. We did that already in our earlier classes. We did that.
So as per Jekyll, when we plug some dots, like when we don't have them. we plug them
Add some,
in.
add some plugins. No,
Something out of it.
no. Nothing as such.
Even this search, we didn't got it.
Yeah, of course. But some of the commands, what to do? There's only one approach: updating Docker. If there is a new release, we got to update Docker from one version to another version. Other than that, no. They're giving commands like Docker run and attach a volume. This we already explored. Okay? Docker run command and attaching it. But to an existing one, we got Docker mount command. I'll show you that in the next class. Okay, we'll explore that a bit later. Yeah. What happened? Yeah. Yeah, fine, friends. All right. So Docker PS minus A and A4 container Docker volume update. Let's say A4 on so shared underscore volume. No such volume. Okay. Docker volume update. Docker volume ls. We got 4 volumes. Docker volume update D53 D530 volume spelling wrong. Yeah. Volume spelling wrong. Yeah. No such volume. Can only update cluster volumes. Okay, fine, friends. I'll update you on this. For what's the multiple hosts, not one single Docker, but for multiple hosts of Docker, we get that concept again in Docker Swarm. We're doing all activities currently only on one single Docker, but later on, we got to perform activities on a huge cluster, meaning multiple servers where you run Docker commands. When you create a container, let's say, this server on the server, let's say some web server you're running, some website you hosted, and now this server is down. What happens? If a server is down, all the running process in that server, they're no longer functional, right? Everything gets to a halt. But just in case, even a server is killed, you want your website to be running, what you do, you maintain your application in a cluster. Meaning a cluster ensures that if one application is down in a cluster, the same application gets recreated on another server and it's still available. So Docker Swarm concept, cluster concept. Okay. So Docker PS minus A. Now the volumes we got, we created some volumes and we are able to attach volumes to, we are able to share a volume across multiple containers, right? And what else are the concepts we got? Means in Docker, we got a concept called Docker creating customized Docker images. Custom Docker images. So what is a custom Docker image? Say, friends, I got a container created. I created some container C1 out of an image, let's say Alpine. Now, is it possible for me to install the Git in this container? Maven, tray package. What are the packages about? Is it possible for me to install in this C1 container?
Yes.
Yes, because containers are flexible. You can do whatever you want. If you want to install packages, you can do that. Now, let's say I installed some packages over here. Okay. And I want the same container, one more occurrence of the same container. And what to do? If I create another container from this Alpine image, if I create one more container out of this Alpine image, what happens? Do you find these packages already available here? No, because it's just an image. only an operating system. Now again, you got to add some more additional packages here to bring this C2 container to the same C1 state. Likewise, I want one more container C3 with the same packages. Now, if I create a container out of this image, again, it's coming up with only an operating system. Again, I have to install everything in this C3 container. So, which is a hectic approach. Now, let's say if you want to create some C20 containers of the same C1 configuration, you got to create C20 containers. What happens is that installing everything on every container becoming a very hectic approach. That is where what you do, you create your own customized image. From this C1 container, what you do, you create your own custom image. Now, since from this C1 container you created your image has operating system. It's all the packages you install. Now, from this image, if you create containers C2, C3, C4, C5, etc., every container has its own packages and operating system. So, creating customized images is what we're going to explore. In the session tomorrow, we'll explore this. There are two approaches with Docker commit approach, and the second one with the concept called Docker. So let's try to understand these two in the next class. Okay. So for today, let's take a pause. Continue again. Yeah.
Alpha and already
Alpha. Yeah.
So the packages already download చేసి మళ్ళీ కంటైనర్స్ చేస్తే రాదు అట్లా.
అంటే మీరు
Alpha
Alpha
image OS లో ఆల్రెడీ మనం అన్ని ప్యాకేజెస్ డౌన్లోడ్ చేసుకుంటాం.
ఓకే.
దాని తర్వాత ఇమేజ్ మన కంటైనర్స్ క్రియేట్ చేస్తే అప్పుడు
image is read only, right? Image is read only. You get the image లో మీరు ఏదైనా యాడ్ చేయాలంటే first you need a container. So without a container, it's not possible to edit your image. So that is where we create a container, add all our packages, and then you are doing again an image, a read-only image. Now this image serves as it's a source for your fixed available containers. Yeah, friends. So we'll say this concept in the session, right? Yeah. So hardly what did we discuss today? Docker volume containers and databases. The task written and
yes.
What is the task? Image with task. Postgres. Yeah. Make sure that go with Postgres image. Make a documentation call, then you find the documentation when you search for Postgres in hub.docker.com. A image at the create share, sorry, container at the create share. Have a detailed overview.
I created instance and I did it.
Yeah.
So without logging into the hub.docker, it was not taking the images.
Without logging into hub.docker.com, it's not taking images. Oh, great. So you creating containers from
Like I do
Ubuntu. True.
So I thought I was doing it and then it was not taking, but then I logged into it and then we started it.